All right, let's talk about gold, because something really, really strange is happening. What's supposed to be this, boring, slow, and steady asset is suddenly going absolutely vertical, and nobody can seem to agree on why.
Okay, just look at this. For the last 40 years, gold has kind of plodded along, giving us a respectable, if not a little sleepy, 6.5% average return. But the last 5 years, it's been averaging almost 20% a year. I mean, come on. The boring kid in class is suddenly putting up superstar numbers.
And this isn't just normal, healthy growth. The feeling out there is that this is chaotic, it's aggressive, frankly, it's a little unhinged. As one source put it so perfectly, it's happening in a someone chugged a Four Loko kind of way. And that's maybe the weirdest part of all this. Usually, when there's a huge market move, there's some kind of general story everyone agrees on. But right now, the experts are totally baffled. Everyone's got a theory, but nobody seems to have the real answer. It feels like something is rumbling just beneath the surface. So where do we even start to figure this out? Well, you got to go after the most obvious suspect first, right? And that's inflation. It makes perfect sense on the surface, but when you actually look at the evidence, that whole theory just falls apart. And yeah, we've all felt it. Your rent is up, your groceries are up, even your burrito costs a fortune now. So it seems totally logical to connect those dots straight to the place of gold, the classic hedge against inflation. But here's the huge problem with that theory. The timing is completely wrong. If gold was just an inflation hedge, its price should have shot to the moon back in 2021 when inflation was raging. But it didn't. It barely budged. This massive explosion we're seeing now, it didn't start until way, way later. So, this is the real mystery, isn't it? If we've ruled out the main suspect, we've got to look deeper for the real culprit. And what you find is something a lot more subtle and maybe a little more unsettling. It turns out the real story here isn't about regular people trying to protect their savings. No, it's about the biggest financial players in the entire world. We're talking central banks, and they are quietly losing faith in the US dollar. So for the past 80 years, the US dollar has been king. It's the world's global reserve currency. It is the bedrock of international trade, the default currency that every central bank on the planet holds to keep the whole system running smoothly. But look at this. 20 years ago, central banks held over 70% of their reserves in US dollars. Fast forward to today, and that's down to 58%. Now, a 12-point drop might not sound like a crazy number, but when you're talking about global reserves, that represents a shift of trillions of dollars. Now, they're not just hitting a giant sell button on the dollar. That would be way too obvious, and it would trigger a complete global meltdown. No, what they're doing is much, much sneakier. They call it diversifying. It's a slow, strategic tiptoe away, trying not to wake the sleeping dragon of the global economy. And where are they diversifying to? Not the euro, not the yen, they're going to gold. And this quote just explains it perfectly. Gold is the world's monetary prenup. It's the backup plan for when trust in the main relationship starts to fade. And they are piling into this backup plan like there's no tomorrow. How much, you ask? Over 1,000 tons of gold per year. And get this, this isn't just some one-off shopping spree. We're talking 3 straight years, 3 years in a row that central banks have bought over 1,000 tons of gold. This is a sustained, deliberate trend. And to really get a sense of the scale here, you have to understand this isn't just a small bump. It is more than double the average buying they were doing for the entire decade before this. We are witnessing a massive, historic shift in real time. Okay, so this is where the story gets really confusing. Not just for us, but for everyone. Because at the exact same moment central banks are quietly preparing for a rainy day, other parts of the market are partying like it's never going to end. And that brings us to this core paradox. On one hand, you have the stock market hitting all-time highs, you got AI stocks just soaring. That's a clear sign of incredible optimism, right? But on the other hand, gold is also at all-time highs, which screams deep-seated anxiety about what's coming next. And this is what is so bizarre. Historically, markets pick a lane. When everyone's feeling good, they buy risk-on stuff, like stocks. When they're scared, they run to risk-off safety nets, like gold. You're not supposed to see both of them rallying to the moon at the exact same time. So what's the one thing you should really take away from all this noise?
It's that the actual price of gold isn't the real story. The real story is who is buying it and what that tells us about the future.
You have to remember, gold is boring when everything feels stable and people have trust in the system. It only wakes up and starts making noise when that institutional trust, that fundamental faith in the system, starts to slip. And right now, believe me, it is wide awake.
What's so crucial to understand is that this isn't a reaction to some crisis that's already here. No, this is preemptive positioning. Central banks are looking down the road and they're getting nervous about stuff like massive US debt and sticky long-term inflation. And they're hedging against a future they just don't fully trust anymore.
And this is really what it all boils down to. The next time you see gold flashing another new all-time high, don't just think about the price. Think about the players making the moves. The biggest, most powerful, most informed financial institutions on the entire planet are quietly shifting their chips.
And that leaves us with this one final, really unsettling question. Markets just don't behave like this when the future looks clear and stable. The biggest players in the game are making moves that suggest they are getting ready for something new. The question is, what?